Here's something you've probably never considered. The 2008 Ryan Reynolds rom-com Definitely Maybe is a movie version of the show How I Met Your Mother. Don't believe me? Well, how about I explain the plot of one of them and you try and guess which one it is. So there's this guy, and he's telling his kids the story of how he met their mother. The story is set in New York City when he was a 20-something professional making his way through life with a close group of friends. He tells them about many of his romantic adventures, although he is intentionally vague on who their mother is. And it is not until she is finally revealed that we realise she wasn't in the story very much, and in fact, the story wasn't about her at all. The real story is about how this guy has always been in love with one of his closest female friends, and he's just using this story to admit that to his children so they will be okay with him moving on now that he is no longer with their mother. Did you guess which one it was? No? That's because I have deceived you. That was the plot of both stories. I employed trickery to prove my point, and now have convinced you completely that they are the same story. All that remains is to ask, why? Why am I making this video? Why did I even notice this connection in the first place? And why should anyone care? Well, given the current circumstances of the entire world, you have to try and kill time in whatever ways you can. And there's only so much Tiger King I can watch before the days start melting together. And I don't know if it's day or night, or how many weeks, months, or years I've been inside. Before long, you find yourself staring at a wall, lost in the infinite void that has become your mind, pondering life's greatest conundrums. Trying to keep your thoughts away from the truly dark and disturbing regions of your consciousness. Then, when you think you're going to be lost in that place forever, one thought cuts through the darkness and illuminates your entire existence. Did that Ryan Reynolds movie just straight up rip off How I Met Your Mother? Short answer, absolutely not, but perhaps just a little bit. Now, How I Met Your Mother premiered in 2005, a full 3 years before Definitely Maybe was released in 2008. But a lot of the similarities between the two are present at the end of the stories, and Definitely Maybe definitely finished first. And yes, I know the end of How I Met Your Mother was planned from the early days of the show, but there's surely no way the writer of Definitely Maybe got that information, so I don't think anybody stole anything from anyone. But which one told this particular story better? Of course, one is a movie and the other is a TV show. Comparing them is like comparing apples and oranges. Although I never really liked that saying because I hate oranges, so it seems like an obvious choice to me. But my personal fruit preferences aside, it's tough to compare these two stories. So let's look at some of the elements that are the same and how those elements are different, and then we'll go from there to determine which story did it better. The obvious place to start is with our protagonists, Ted and Will. There's not a lot to split these two. They're both quintessential 2000s male romantic leads who are very clearly stand-ins for the guys that wrote these respective stories. At least they are the idealized versions of the writers in more ways than one. They even kind of dress the same, but this is why I'm starting here, because even though I said I was going to examine the differences, I just can't really seem to find anything too significant. They do differ slightly, but more in how they relate to the women they date, but I feel like that's better to dive into when we talk about them, so let's do that. The mother plays quite a different role in both stories. In How I Met Your Mother, she is hinted at constantly throughout the first 8 seasons, but we don't actually see her until the season 8 finale. Then she becomes a main character in season 9, and in my opinion is easily the best part of that whole season. Alternatively, in Definitely Maybe, she is introduced right off the bat, but quickly disappears from the movie, only to be reintroduced right before it is revealed that she is the mother. The other major difference is the protagonist's relationship with her. Ted is constantly on a path towards the mother, almost meeting her many times across the run of the show, and she is always painted as being the perfect woman for Ted, his dream girl, and who he has been searching for his whole life. And when she is finally introduced in the show, the audience has time to get to know her before Ted does, and she does not disappoint. She really does seem like the perfect match for him, and it's incredibly gratifying when we finally see them come together. Until they undercut it almost immediately by killing her off. Back over to Definitely Maybe, we don't really know much about why Will and Sarah got together or why they got divorced. Sure, we see them as a couple at the start of the film and why they break up that time, but when she comes back years later, their relationship is mostly skipped over. The only explanation the movie gives us is that they just weren't right for each other. Which is why I think Definitely Maybe actually has the upper hand in this aspect, because the love story being told here is not about our protagonist and the mother of their children, So why bother to make that seem like the best relationship for the characters? And finally, the character that I believe is the most important one in these stories, because without them, there wouldn't be any twist and we would just have two straightforward stories about how parents met. So, inversely to the mother, it's important to show how this character is the true love of our protagonist. In Definitely Maybe, it becomes quite clear early on that April is who Will is actually in love with, and after the reveal of who the mother is, the movie then completely focuses on their relationship forming. In How I Met Your Mother, this character is Robin, Ted's first major love interest in the show, and during the early seasons of the show there was even plenty of fan theories that she was actually the mother, but this became less and less of a viable theory the more we learned about the real mother, and once Ted and Robin broke up at the end of season 2, it seemed like their romantic story was over for good. Or I guess that actually happened later on in season 3. Or even after their friends with benefits arrangement failed. Actually no, I guess it was after Barney and Robin got together. No, wait, sorry, it was when Robin straight up told Ted that she did not love him. Oh wait, it was actually when Barney and Robin were about to get married and Ted finally let her go. I guess there were a lot of signs that they weren't right for each other and that they probably weren't going to end up together. So we were pretty surprised when they did, right? Great twist. Except, no, it wasn't. That's not really how twists work. You can't just keep telling the audience that something won't happen and then be like, surprise, it did. Remember earlier when I said I hated oranges? Well, psych, I actually love them. Don't you feel stupid, you dumb idiot? This whole time you were sitting there thinking, I don't like oranges when I can't get enough of them. I'm eating one right now. Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like watching the How I Met Your Mother finale. You felt like the writers thought you were stupid, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a last-minute decision to have Ted and Robin end up together. What's that? They decided on this ending from season 2? And they purposely decided to make every choice possible to make that ending seem as out of place as possible? And I already knew this because I mentioned it earlier and I'm just doing this fake surprise thing? Cool. If it's not already obvious from the rant I just went on, Definitely Maybe is the winner of this competition. And I think that's solely because it seems like this was the story they actually wanted to tell. Whereas How I Met Your Mother was never really concerned with telling a love story at all. The show was based on creators Carter Bays and Craig Thomas's life in New York as friends. The only other real character was Thomas's wife, who was the inspiration for Lily. There was no Robin, no mother. The show's greatest weakness was its title and the idea that that is what the show was actually about. In reality, they wanted a Friends-type show, and I guess with that came the inevitability of a Ross and Rachel-type romance. And I want to say that I think it's a good thing that they had the ending planned out from the start. A lot of shows drop in quality as they go on and just kind of stumble to the finish line because they don't know how to end it. And had How I Met Your Mother finished a few seasons earlier, this ending may have worked. It's hard to say. But if you're ever writing a story and you know the ending, don't make choices that directly contradict that ending. And if you do, maybe change the ending. Perhaps I was a little harsh on How I Met Your Mother, but that's only because in its early days, it was probably my favourite show at the time. And of course, when you're debating who did a better job at telling a story that can be summed up in a paragraph, the movie is going to win 9 times out of 10. That's kind of what a movie is meant to do, tell a self-contained and succinct story. TV is more about following the characters and their adventures, and less about the overarching story.
And that, kids, is How I Met Your Mother.
Thanks for watching. I've got quite a few ideas for similar videos to this one, comparing stories that are similar to each other. So if you like this video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything in the future.